I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. Hey, what's up, world? Welcome to another edition of I Mix What I Like right here. Black Power Media. I'm Jared Ball, joined again happily by my man Geechee, y'all, and hopefully a whole bunch of you. So jump on in. Like Math Hoffa says, get in here, wipe your feet on the rug by hitting the like button, the join, the subscribe, invite others to get some of this good boom bap breakfast with you. Geechee, what's up, sir? Good morning, man. How you feeling?
Good morning. Feeling well. Rested today, but ready for this another tiring Bitcoin cryptocurrency conversation.
So yeah, we're going to get into it, and we can start off. I'm looking at the latest news. Bitcoin is down again today, 0.40%. I'm just looking at the market news and noticing that. And Facebook Meta is down 6.4% too. So we're going to get into some of that. And as it relates to, I think as it relates also to some of the communist struggle within the African diaspora, because in a few minutes, Dr. Margaret Stevens is going to join us again. Of course, we've had her here before to talk about her work, Red International and Black Caribbean Communists in New York City, Mexico, and the West Indies, 1919 to 1939. We're going to talk a little bit about that this morning, but she's also in Aruba and going to join us, I believe, with one of her comrades there and to update us a little bit about the struggle around there, some things happening there. And then with that sort of context, I think in the second half the show, we can come back and more appropriately address the latest, some of the latest in the crypto world. And in particular, there's a clip of a video. I'm going to tease it like this, Geechee, because Geechee, you haven't, I don't think, I didn't share it with you, so I don't think you've seen this either, but we're going to play a clip of a panel discussion around cryptocurrency and Black struggle, where all of our nationalisms, all or any of our race first tendencies are going to be further challenged. And I would just leave it at that for now. A fascinating discussion where, you know, or as Fanon said, the pitfalls of national consciousness come into play a little bit. And then, of course, some of the latest news, obviously, around JayZ and Twitter Man coming together. And there's some nice overlap with your boy. I did a little bit of a deep dive into that story, and there's a bit of an overlap. There's a sort of 6 degrees of Cryptoganda exchange overlap with me and that story. So we'll get into that as well. But anyway, there's a couple of things I thought we could, while we're waiting for Dr. Stevens to get here, there's a couple of things I did think we could bring up, but let me check back in with you to see if there was something, you know, maybe percolating at the top of your mind grapes that you would want us to rap about for a second.
No, I have nothing. I do, when I was looking up, I did see a bunch of like Spike Lee and the brother who's one of the teachers for JayZ course. I saw an article and I saw all these quotes, and I saw you had like a two-line quote in there. But
oh, like, really?
Yeah. I can't remember what link it was, but it was like pretty much something that you said. It was the same kind of propaganda from years ago, and then it cut to somebody else. So.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm not sure if we're. Honestly, I don't know if we're talking about the same thing, but there is. This is the book, by the way, that I'm talking about, and I'll put the link in the show notes. I don't think I did already to our previous interview with Dr. Stevens. where you can hear about that. But yeah, okay. So anyway, but that might be the same story that I'm talking about in terms of where this overlap comes between me and some of the folks involved with this JayZ Twitter man story. But so I look forward to getting into that when we get a chance to get to it. Yeah, the book is I was late getting to the book, and I'm still reading it in sections. I haven't even finished the whole thing. Diallo, yeah, good question. Thank you for reminding us. Brother Diallo has family business to attend to today. I don't want to be on the man's business, but I think it involves youngsters and graduations and celebrations. So, Brother Diallo is out there handling that, and will be back with us next week. Yeah, definitely don't worry about that. Saludos también, Deborah. Yes, indeed, and welcome. But yeah, anyway, so okay. Well, we'll get back. Yeah, we'll come back to the whole joint around the crypto in a little bit. Let me see something real quick here. So one of the things, so I see this story this morning, just real quick, that gas prices in some parts of the country have topped $5 per gallon. And one of the little interesting offshoots from this story that I'm looking at says that a sheriff's department in Michigan instructed its deputies to cut back on visits for non-urgent calls because it had blasted through its fuel budget with months before a new one kicks in. Now, honestly, I had not thought about the policing side of the gas crisis, the gas price crisis. But I just feel like I'm not fast enough this morning to come up with it, but somewhere probably in the chat, somebody will have it. There's got to be some good jokes about the contradictions of less police presence due to higher price gas, and what advantages could be taken. Similarly, an ambulance crew in Pittsburgh said it was limiting its service outside of 911 calls after facing a similar budget crunch. Now, that part is like the other side of the coin in terms of the contradiction for me. Like, I don't know exactly what ambulances are doing outside of 911 calls, but I feel like they shouldn't be limited because gas is too expensive.
I guess I've always seen anytime I've seen law enforcement, especially where I'm from, they have their own little gas space where they get free gas, I thought, but I guess I never considered that they're paying per barrel as well. They just,
Well, they got a budget. I mean, everybody gets a budget. So, I don't know. I just thought that was, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. I had not thought about that. But clearly some poor and black and brown folks, I'm sure, are not going to fare well. There's somehow I'm just waiting for the next week's news stories. Due to gas shortages, such and such couldn't be saved, or, instead of getting into a high-speed chase, we just shot them up because we don't have the gas to chase anybody, but we got plenty of bullets, something like that. I'm just waiting for something like that.
I wonder how many police departments went to electric cars, if any, since they be spending money all over the place. So I wouldn't be surprised if some people went to electric cars.
That's interesting. I don't know to what extent, because at the other end of the electric grid is also oil. So that's where I've always, at some point, there's not everything is solvable through electricity, since solar panels and wind don't produce enough. Anyway, I don't know. Yeah, I hear you though. I hear you. Hey, just checking in with my former football team. I saw this story. The defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio, is out here defending Trump in January 6th, saying the folks who invaded the Capitol on January 6th, saying that how come there's so much attention being paid in terms of the hearings and everything around what happened on January 6th when in 2020 all summer long there was all this violence and hostility from Black Lives Matter and all this other stuff. So I was just saying here, that Jack Del Rio, the defensive coordinator on a team that loses a lot, I was just saying, nah, he has it wrong. Everybody has it wrong. He's really just mad at the fact that he's used to being overrun by better offenses. Go commies, go, the nickname for the new Washington Commanders in some circles has been commies. They were fearful it was going to be called the commies. And I'm like, that might be bringing me back to the team. But I'm like, nah. I'm like, the real issue is this is why it's hard to stay a fan of these professional leagues when you got folks like this in charge. And if you read the story, the Black players, it's always funny when they ask the Black players what they think. Many of them, and most of the respondents were saying, as long as he comes to work, I don't care what he does off the field. Because of course, professional players are not situated to have the best analysis or to be taking chances with their careers and their playing time by being critical of the coaching staff and the right wing elite of the NFL. So,
have you been following? Have you been following Deion Sanders and his all his moves? Like, how you feel about that?
Not enough. But you're talking about him saying that HBCUs should have more power in the game because something about recruiting players, Black players, something, fill me in or catch us all up.
Yeah, I mean he's been able to pull some recruits and had some of the top colleges, whining about him doing that and saying he's cheating and stuff like that. And I mean I don't know how well they're going to be able to compete, but I know they took a couple big stars.
So a couple years ago, I don't know. We never followed through on it, but a year or so ago, Kevin Blackistone, the sports journalist that folks might see on ESPN from time to time or in the Washington Post or where, he and I are pretty cool. And every once in a while we rap. And one of the things he was talking about was doing a story involving the buying power argument and the recruitment of HBCUs of top players to basketball and football. And one of the points I was trying to draw the parallel in the hopes of helping him craft this article that again I don't think went anywhere or I haven't seen go anywhere is that and the problem that I think Deion is ultimately facing is that, again, HBCUs, much like Black people, broadly speaking, have a specific place in the economy. And so simply saying, hey, start a business or in the HBCU athletic context, invest in or recruit top athletes or have those athletes on their own be encouraged to go to HBCUs instead of PWIs. The inherent limitation or flaw in that is that it starts with the relationship of HBCUs to the NCAA, to the television contracts, to boosters, to as is the case with Black business, outside investment or venture capital. So in other words, HBCUs, until there is an adjustment, which would make them not HBCUs in effect, that is where you would have white, elite, wealthy white boosters funding and supporting the university, getting the big television contracts that guarantee not only millions of dollars, but that the players that sign to these teams will get nationally televised, recognized games to be then promoted to the NFL or the NBA. Without any of that, there's no point. Even recruiting or attempting to recruit the best players is not likely. One, they're not going to go. Two, you're not going to be able to get them on TV, get them recruited in the same ways that other players are going to be seen and recruited. So unless there, again, is some well-organized, massive movement to get players to HBCUs, to get television contracts to HBCUs, I don't see, anyway, there's nowhere for Dion to go. And there's no, outside of one or another exception to the rule, there's nowhere for people to go in terms of creating some sort of groundbreaking change or option. So no, again, dealing the real, you often, I feel like you often don't want to give me the benefit of the doubt of close attention. I'm not saying, what I mean by that is that historically Black colleges and universities that get the level of booster support that would go to a Michigan or a Nebraska or a Miami University would mean, in effect, that they're not historically Black colleges and universities anymore, in the sense that they are attuned to, unless you want to say the traditional purpose of an HBCU is for this, and some might argue that, as I even have, but if the HBCU is courting elite white funding for the purposes of attracting television contracts, et cetera, and so forth, then it's going to change the nature of the, I mean, they're going to become effectively a PWI is my point. That was really all I meant. They'll still be historically Black colleges and universities, but in name only, in label only, and play, I think maybe an anti-Black propaganda role in that sense. Because why would you have an historically Black college university that is simply there to attract white venture capital? Why would they be investing in that anyway?
Somebody's going to have to pay their the players for their likenesses. They're going to have somewhere to get that money. So I would assume they have to attract some of those, major,
all of those
brands.
things. Yeah, absolutely. All of those things. So then again, what is going to make Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, all the other whatever venture capital move from supporting, again, the major white universities to supporting Howard and Morgan? Why would they do that? What would be the incentive in doing that? There would, again, so I don't have all the details worked out, obviously, in the argument, but the HBCU, the institution they're investing in, would have to reform itself for them to find value in that investment. They're not just going to turn that investment, because they're following the Black players they want to bring to the league, who have in some mass exodus decided to go to HBCUs. They go to the elite white universities because they're induced by under the table payment, by being on TV, by having access to the best facilities, because those facilities are funded by the most elite and wealthy, so on and so on and so on and so on. Why would all of that resource be shifted to Deion Sanders at Jackson State, right? Is that where he is? Why would they do that?
Right.
And then if they did do that, what does that mean about the institution at that point? Is the question I'm raising. That's what I mean by it's no longer an HBCU in the context of what I think most people think of when they think of, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it'd be pretty difficult to attract more ex-NFL players as coaches at HBCUs. Cause I mean, they would literally have to do that. Like, I don't think Jackson State is getting players because anything other than Deion Sanders is there. So,
and who's going to pay them what is it, $6 to $8 million a year that Nick Saban and them get at these other universities? I mean, so the coaches get at these other. Anyway, that's all I mean by that. So, real quick before we because I see our guest is here. But real quick, I just saw this story. The headline says, "Now you can order pot Thai because Thailand has officially decriminalized cannabis yesterday." So, I just wanted to shout out Thailand. Pot Thai. You can get your pot Thai. That's a funny pun. Shout out to the authors at wherever that is. Anyway. All right, good people. Let's take a quick transition and get to our guest who is here joining us. So let's not delay any further. Back in a quick second. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. Hey, joining us once again is Dr. Margaret Stevens, who, among many other things, is professor in the Department of History at Essex County College in Newark. She's a contributor to the volume Communist Histories and the author of Red International and Black Caribbean. Dr. Stevens, welcome back. It's good to see you again. Thanks for joining us. Uh-oh, can you hear me? Uh-oh. Because I can't. You got to come off mute. And I see you, for some reason, you're connected on 2 devices. I'm not sure what that's all about. Let me see. I can't unmute you, but you're muted. So I don't know if you're hearing me. Do you hear me?
All right.
Okay.
I try to use 2 devices because, you know, I like to have backup, but I'll just use my phone. It's okay.
Okay. But you do hear us all right then?
Me?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you okay, but
okay, right
I know for a fact that at some point something might happen, but we'll just do the best while we can.
All right, right on, right on. So all right, yes, all right. Yeah, I got access to the folder and everything you sent. So I'll let you take it away in terms of what you wanted to come here and talk with us about. And so yeah, what's going on and where are you in the world? Let's start with that and what brings, what's happening.
Okay, so we're right now about, I think we might be about 12 miles north of Venezuela. Aruba is right off the coast of Venezuela. You can see Venezuela from the
Hold on, Margaret, I'm sorry to cut you off. Sorry to cut you off. The audio's not good. Is there any chance you have headphones for your phone or anything like that? Because we're getting it's feedback and a lot of crunchiness in your audio, unfortunately.
The only other thing I could do is be on my computer, and then I won't have video because I can't have interference with both devices. So we could do, you could hear me but can't see me, or see me and kind of sort of could hear me. That's I can't do better than that.
All right, okay. So well, we have to that audio doesn't work. We can't sit through that, unfortunately. I can't even listen to it again. The crackling is too much. So we got to go to the computer, and we'll have to go with sound and no video if there's no camera on your computer.
Pull up my video footage.
I'm sorry?
Are you going to be able to put up my video footage?
Yeah, I can play your video footage.
Okay, just pull up the folder that says
but hold on, I'm sorry, the audio is it's really disturbing. If you can jump on your computer and get the audio right, and then that would be great, because I get that you can understand her fine, my written voice, but I don't want but I'd rather we just take a second and have her get on a better audio setup, because I don't want us to just struggle to hear her okay through the crackling. And it really does, actually, it's like a thing for me. The crackling in my ears really bother me for some reason. But if we could just give her a second to do that, I can pull up. I have all the folders pulled up, Dr. Stevens. Yeah, I do. And that one in particular, Sugar Booger. And thanks to you, by the way, and again, Quaker Anarchist, for all the social media love you show the channel. But yeah, that particular crackling. Yeah, here we go. Go ahead, get your jokes in. Go ahead. Yes, my sensitive ears are holding back the revolution. Yes, keep it up. Yeah, I would think of the same thing. We could use the video from her phone and the audio from the computer. I don't know if that's possible, Dr. Stevens, if you're able to hook up the... Dr. Stevens, are you able to jump on the... Okay. And then which video did you want us to start with? Was there one in particular that you wanted us to start with? That's funny. The first video? Okay. Let's see. I don't know if I have them in order now though.
It's whatever it sounds like it's coming through better now. Like
okay, go ahead.
The noise behind it.
Let's try it again, Dr. Stevens. Let's try it again. Uh-oh. No, she was saying first video. Did you Margaret, go ahead and talk again and just tell me what you I think it, okay, she's putting the headphones on. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of how that's where I'm at with it. But you might sound, I don't know if you can hear me, but I think you might sound better.
I might sound better now. Do I sound better now?
Nope. By the way, everybody, I'm reminding myself real quick while we're here, hit the merch, blackpowermedia.org. I got my new set of t-shirts in, the black with the yellow, rocking today. Go ahead and you get you some hot new gear for the all right, let's see. Does it ooh, that didn't work. That didn't work. How
do I turn off my, is it better now?
No, it's not. But if I mute this mic and add this to the stream.
Can you mute?
No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Now that just gets feedback.
I wonder if you mute yourself while she's talking, Jared, because that might be coming through yours as well.
Nope, that wasn't, because I was muted on that one. That wasn't working.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. It's just got that scratch on it. It's just but all right, let's just go through it.
I think what we could do is, I don't need to be visible. I could turn off my phone and then we could just do my voice and you could show the clips.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. If we do, let's see, if we do this and add this. No, because, okay, there we go.
So you can hear me okay now?
Yeah, we can hear you better. That's better.
All right. So I just won't be visible. I didn't get to show my free Justin t-shirt. I'm wearing a t-shirt for a brother in Newark, New Jersey, who's been in prison for a year. And there's a big campaign to get him out of jail. So I wanted everybody to see that. But it's okay. I'll just get to talk about it instead. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's better. There's still something wrong. But anyway, it's better. If you can feel free to tell us about this case. You can drop links in the chat. You can and I can pull something up for us to share.
Yeah, no, what I'll do is I'll send you information and then maybe we can do if you have time, we could do a show with the folks who are involved. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I didn't bring anything for it specifically, but I'll
anytime.
be sure to follow up on that. Okay, great. So I'm here in Aruba, 12 miles from Venezuela, and I know that you reached out a while ago about another show, and so I figured that it might be nice to share with you the thoughts that I have right now about a documentary that I'm working on about Aruba, because I figure that by talking with you, you will basically help me figure out what this documentary needs to do. So I figure the more people I share my thoughts with and footage with, the better the documentary will be. So really, I'm really looking forward to the questions that you guys have, maybe thoughts or areas I haven't thought to cover yet, and the relevance and things like that. So just before I get started on, what I'm trying to accomplish, I was wondering the if you were able to see a file, a folder called BMP and MLG clips. Were you able to see that particular folder? Because that has some of the clips in it that I'd like for you to pull up.
Yeah, I did, but I have individual videos pulled up in set, so I'm not sure what. Okay, I'm not sure which
Yeah,
folder
no,
they
no,
came
that's
from
fine.
though.
Oh, you don't
Hmm.
know which folder when did you go to your Google? You're in your Google Drive there?
Yeah, what I'm saying is I went to you sent several emails with several links, and I opened them all up, and some of them open to specific videos as opposed to an entire folder, and then one open to a folder, and I'm not sure which of these videos came from where. That's all I'm
That's
saying. So
fine.
I
No,
have
that's fine.
everything, but
So the let's start with the folder, not with the individual emails with
all
the
right, hold on.
clips.
I'm gonna have to go back just a sec because I have to. What I'm saying is I don't have the folder link in front of me. I have the contents of the folder opened in different tabs, so I don't know which have come from where. So I'm gonna have to just go back and um. Is there a file name that you would want to start with? Because I might have that already opened up, is what I'm saying.
You could start with, I mean, any of them really. I can work with any of them as they come. Do you have
Because now I don't find
6865?
any.
Do you see 6865 or 4080? Either one of those? Do you see either
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
6865 or 4080? Those are the two separate emails I sent. You could pull up both of those if you'd
No,
like.
you sent more than that. There's a whole bunch of there's a whole bunch of emails. That's why I'm saying it's like um hold on a second. Hold on a second. Here we go. All right, here's one.
So
All
that is
right.
a video that was just taken last week um, during something called Soul Beach, which is an annual African American a week of events in Aruba that was started 20 years ago this year. This was the 20th anniversary of Soul Beach. It was started by Sinbad, the comedian, who lived in Aruba for a minute. And so Soul Beach became an annual pilgrimage for a lot of people from the U.S. To Aruba because they would be able to see a lot of their favorite American. It's a very U.S. based event. It's not like you don't go to see soca or reggae or any island type thing. It's the comedians are like Mike Epps, people like that. What's his name? Dougie Fresh is usually like one of the MCs. Um, Mary J. Blige has been there a billion times. Erica
Hmm.
Badu. That's the kind of lineup. This year, the big event was New Edition. So they came together for that. So anyway, it's a very specific, as far as I'm concerned, that's a very specific demographic in the U.S. of Black people who would go to that lineup. That's not, catering to 90% of the young people. That's a very sort of, I would say, late 30s to 50s generation that goes out for that at this point. So the reason part that's not what this documentary is about. It's not about Soul Beach. This documentary is my effort to really deal with a very basic reality. I'm fascinated by how Aruba went from becoming one of the biggest uh, producers, manufacturers of oil, right? Raw material that is the lifeblood of capitalism. Aruba had one of the biggest oil refineries on the planet, run by Standard Oil Company, which is ExxonMobil now. starting in the late 20s and into all the way up until the 80s. So for about 60 years, for the majority of the 20th century, Aruba had one of the biggest oil refineries on the planet and shut down in the 80s for reasons that I still need to figure out. I think it has to do with environmental damage and death of a lot of local residents to cancer and stuff, and they didn't want to deal with the lawsuits. So I think they shut down their refinery in the 80s, and probably other reasons as well. But in any case, they went from producing oil, right, which is one of the most basic concrete raw materials essential to the function of capitalism, to producing tourism, right, to producing pleasure, to producing, they call themselves one happy island. So how do you go from producing such an essential raw material fundamental to the daily lifeblood of the global economy to producing pleasure, desire, which is, one of the least material commodities that you could purchase. It's one of the most abstract things that you could purchase, right? So, but it's also critical to the ongoing of capitalism because workers, especially the American workers who go every year, need that 2-week vacation to stay sane at their jobs, right? So many people spend their whole year looking forward to that 1 week or that 2 week that they're going to take off and go to a place like this. So part of what I'm trying to do is try to educate American workers about what I would call false consciousness, or this idea that that they are that capitalism works for them, and on some level, obviously, it does. But what I'd like to do is educate a lot of folks who come to places like Aruba, because this is obviously not just true of Aruba. I'd like to educate people about the ways in which their escape, their vacation or their getaway from their own exploitation is predicated upon the super exploitation of these Black and brown workers who live in places like Aruba. Not so that they can feel some sort of guilt or charity, but so that they can feel some sort of sense of internationalism or solidarity. This is in many ways a sort of present day extension of what I wrote my book about years ago anyway, which was about internationalism in the 1930s, right, between the US and the Caribbean. And so now we're in the 21st century, and I'm trying to sort of show people that the basis for that type of internationalism still exists. So if you...
So wait, excuse me, excuse me, Dr. Stevens. Sorry about that. I got the folder pulled up that you were talking about, but let me just see if I understand you correctly. Are you trying to sort of, I guess, radicalize and Pan-Africanize tourism? Is that kind of what's happening? That you're trying to add some depth to the particularly Black worker tourism of Aruba that exists?
Well, I mean, I think that once you radicalize it, it's not really tourism anymore. You might not get allowed into the country. I don't know what's going to happen when you're there. When you're doing the type of radicalism I envision, you're no longer treated as a tourist. So I suppose radicalizing tourism might be, one thing that many people become inspired to do. I think I was basically simply trying to expose the realities of what tourism is predicated upon, so that workers could have a deeper understanding of their relationship to international exploitation. Because most workers see their vacations as privilege, and so I'm trying to complicate that concept for them by not only seeing the super exploitation that other people's lives must become so that they can enjoy that pleasure, but also to get them to think more deeply about what in fact their actual pleasure is, right? Like most people leave the rat race to come get away for a week or two here in these places and then have to go back to the rat race, right? So it's like what keeps you in the rat race is that you know you'll be back in a year or whatever it is. And that is also a form of exploitation. So I'm simply trying to help people understand, you know, globally, the predicament of the international working class in these different spaces.
Yeah,
So
2 weeks a year must be what they've studied. The capitalists must have studied is the bare minimum to keep
yeah,
people
right,
from snapping somebody's neck. Give them 2
right,
weeks a year, and
exactly.
you know. Anyway, I do have that folder pulled up. If you want me to, if you want to point me to something else.
No, there's tons of stuff in there. It sounds like it's a
Mhm.
very chaotic situation for you. So my
No, I
expectations.
got it.
Yeah, well, there was, I mean, I don't even know if folks were watching the show 10 minutes ago when you pulled up that one Soul Beach video clip. The purpose of pulling up that clip was just to show people that there were a substantial number of Black people in the ocean, and that does not happen. Like when you go to these places,
Mm.
when you go to these places, it is essentially white people. So Soul Beach is interesting because it's one of the few times in the year where you go to the beach and there are tons of Black people in the water. Like that doesn't happen. Aruba's tourism is predicated upon white middle class and working class people who are here. So when you see
Again,
that, that's yeah.
it would have to be because Black people don't have any money. So that's what I keep
So
saying.
that's that's what I was gonna ask in terms of that weekend or that time there. I saw something like $12 million. Is that what the Soul Beach is bringing to them annually? Like $12 million for that weekend or something like that?
I'm not sure. I haven't even looked into that yet. But what I failed to record for you guys was I forget who the DJ was on the beach one day. It might have been Envy. I don't remember who it was, but he was at the mic and he was like, he said, and I was down the beach. I wasn't even on the same strip as Soul Beach, but you heard it because the sound traveled. And he said, "Shout out to everybody who has $2,000 in the bank account. Shout out to everybody who is not behind, you know, a payment on their mortgage." And he was not joking. He was not being sarcastic. He was serious. And
Yeah, yeah.
and
Let me tell you something. Let me
would
tell
never
you something.
Listen,
I know either the audience was real white, real quiet, or lying their ass off when he was talking about shout out to you if you got $2,000 in the bank and are up to date on your mortgage.
No, this was an all Black. This is my point. Is he was at Soul Beach, but my point is that
They lying?
no white DJ would ever say, like, no one would
right,
say
right,
that.
right.
That's
right,
the point
right,
I'm trying to make.
I got you. I'm
is
sorry.
that
I
these
got
people
you.
are workers. That's all I'm trying to say is that these people are
That's
workers.
right.
yeah.
Right.
When I actually one of the first when I looked at it, the first advertisement I saw was him as a DJ, and I was like, yeah, this is gonna be a whole bunch of shit that be said at this event. So,
but it is funny when I quickly Googled the economy of Soul Beach in Aruba, I saw the same thing in 2019, which was the last event that took place. It had a direct economic impact on Aruba of $12 million, bringing 6,350 international visitors who spent an average of $372 per day with a stay of around 6 nights. So
yeah. So Soul Beach is definitely a thing, and that will definitely be an aspect of the video of the project, right? But it's not like the main thing. I mean, if you want to get into Soul Beach, I also have clips there that you could show people as well. There's a clip that I wanted you to see, and it's during Soul Beach, but it is the life of the average worker while Soul Beach is happening. So, do you have that video?
So here, look, can you see the screen real quick? Are you able to see the broadcast? Because I'm sharing the folder right here. If you want to point me to the video.
It's all I know is
can...
that it's 6865. Yeah, where you see where it says footage and photo, what you should do is you should click on where it says footage and photo. You should click up. Like use your cursor, go up and to the right, up. Keep going. Yes. Now click on that. And then, but you have to click on that tab, like that arrow. No, not open with. You see where it says footage and yeah, you have to click on.
Yeah, I did. The tab is dropped.
Okay. So You don't, all right, that's fine. You don't have the more recent folder. I made a folder for you and it said that it was shared with you, but evidently you didn't get it. That's
This
okay.
is
No, it's
this
fine.
is
Yeah, there's a subfolder. Oh, there it goes. You see, it's right there. It says BMP and MLG clips. It's right there. It's right now. There you go. That's the folder that I
mm-hmm,
wanted you to use. So
mm-hmm.
which one is it? I said it was 40. Could you scroll down a little? I can't see. 40 copy of wall image, 4080, 6860. Is that it? 6865. Take a look at that 6865. Yeah, that one right there. Oh, it's telling you to open with. Oh, okay, you could open it. The reason why I wanted people to see this one, and I'm sorry for the background noise. So if you want to turn it down, you can. What I wanted people to notice here, I'm in what's called a small bus, a mini bus. This is how many of the workers get to work every day. So many workers live on one side of the island, but this is how they get to the hotels, right? So this is the very sort of unglamorous way that they get to work every day, packed into these small mini buses. And, one of the things that I witnessed during Soul Beach was I witnessed the videos are going to keep playing, so I don't know how many you want to, but you can see in the background the hotels in the far distance. And the point is that the workers are tired every day when they go and they come home, right? And so they're there in the kitchens, they're cooking, they're doing all of that kind of work, right? And people come and they have no concept of like what happens behind the scenes to make these are the replacements for the factories, right? Like they don't have factories anymore out there. So what do they have? They have these hotels, which are the factories. So I didn't have image of tired women coming home who are like Dominican and Aruban women. They bring in a lot of people. The immigrants are from Latin America, so they bring in a lot of cheap labor from Latin America to work in these places. And I didn't want to just be interviewing them coming home from work, but I wanted people to get a sense of how people travel to and from these hotels. Um, there's a lot of other stuff I wanted to show you, but I guess first I'll just make a couple of the key points. And as I'm making them, you could pull up one video that I know is very useful. There's a video there uh, that should be called The Wall or Copy of the Wall. Do you see a video that says Copy of the
Mm-hmm.
Wall? Let's pull that one up, and then I'll just talk as that one is playing.
There it is. Oh wait, no, whoops. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so what you guys are seeing here is honestly probably the thing that tipped me over and made me decide that a documentary needs to happen. What you're going to see in a minute is you're going to see the beginnings of a wall. And this wall, Cerro de Colorado, is the section of Aruba where the Americans, the engineers, and the American professionals who ran the oil refinery where they lived. And their section of the island was quarantined with a wall. This wall was built in the late 20s, early 30s, and remnants of the wall still exist. That's now you're starting to see remnants of the wall. Yeah, as you come around this corner here, you can still see some stones, but the wall will become much more clear. When I was in Aruba for the first time, yeah, you'll start to see the wall in the background now. Trump was president, or maybe Trump was about to become president. I think it was 2017. So was he president already? He was, right? He got elected in 2016. Yeah, you can
Mm-hmm.
now see the wall in the background. So there was all this conversation about Trump and the wall, and all the Democrats were up in arms about Trump and this wall and how racist it was, and anti-Mexican sentiment and things like that. And in other words, there was all of this Democratic and liberal um, furor around Trump's reactionary racist ideology. And I think part of what I wanted to be able to expose by showing this wall is that the US government, the federal government, has always been the #1 protector and defender of U.S. corporate imperialism. The U.S. government has spearheaded U.S. corporate, economic imperialism. And so when folks were so up in arms about this wall and Trump, and this here wall was built by the Standard Oil Company, which is Exxon Mobil, in the 20s and 30s, right? The point is that, and that what you can see in the distance there is the prison on the left. So the prison, the refinery, all of those things are on the same side of the island. And I wanted people to understand that every U.S. president since the 1930s has been in office while this wall existed in Aruba. Every president. So that was Clinton. That was, Obama. I mean, obviously, Standard Oil was over. I mean, the refinery was dead by then. But Kennedy. And the point that I wanted, if there's noise in the background, you can mute it because I don't want people to catch that. But or maybe just pause the video because
no, if there's the only noise in the background of the birds outside my window. So.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that's where it's coming from. But the point that I wanted to make for people is that American racist walls are inherent in the U.S. economic and political system. So Trump is not an aberration. He's not a departure from what the ruling class does in the U.S. and around the world. He simply brought that consciousness back home. But this is something that the bosses have been doing for decades, if not centuries, as they go and extract their resources globally, whether it's raw materials or cheap labor from around the world. They have always built walls and built segregated systems of Jim Crow apartheid. The United States government has. So I felt like showing this wall was a great way to wake people up past this sort of criticism of Trump and this idea of this sort of reactionary racism in the United States being the main threat, right? Get rid of Trump. Trump he's the immediate danger. Well, I think that that's very faulty thinking because the type of deep-seated but less obvious racism of liberals, who've overseen things like this oil empire, really is what keeps so many people committed to the system. So
none of the clips in the folder you sent explain how Biden has made a massive and positive impact on Aruba and its relationship to the United States. Like, there's no clip in there for that one, for the push and left Biden efforts?
I haven't I haven't dealt, honestly. The only thing that's even taken place since Biden got in was Soul Beach. Because honestly speaking, what I cared about when Biden first got in was COVID. I really wanted to document what was happening in Aruba during COVID. And so I wasn't thinking I wasn't thinking.
No, that's fine.
I wasn't thinking about Biden or whoever the new president was. We were in the middle of COVID in Aruba and people were starving. And so all of that stuff about, it's funny, Black people in Aruba were happy that Biden became president, but not really. It was just like, oh yeah, thank goodness Trump is out, but it meant nothing, right? It meant nothing to their day-to-day lives, and nothing changed when Biden became president. So it was really quite irrelevant. Anyway, I have a lot more footage to share with you and things, but I want to make sure that I'm not off cue for what it is that you want to cover or ask.
No, I mean, we're here to cover what you want to cover. I mean, broadly speaking, I might have, wanted you to, I think you've already done that in some ways, but I was just, if anything, wanting you to connect your work on the relationship of communism and the African diaspora to what you're seeing here. I think in many ways you've already done that. So I mean, I'm happy to pull up another clip, or you can elaborate further on any of that, or Geechee. Yeah. I don't know if you have a comment, but So let me know what if there are other clips that you want us to play, or
Yeah,
You know
no,
where
there
that.
are definitely other clips. I think, I mean, and listen, let me just say to you, I'm not
Mhm.
used, I've never done film ever. Obviously, you can tell by the footage. This is not what I do. I write books. So, like, having to show clips and talk is like, you are like the first time I've ever had to do this. So I appreciate the opportunity, but this is not like only like who like just goes into a whole nother realm. So I don't do movies, but like, why not do a movie? You know what I'm saying?
Why
So
not?
right,
Yeah.
right. So I'm very humble about the inefficiency of my approach right now. But there's a ton of awesome videos. Maybe you want to show them the one that says 3115. Do you see the one that says 3115?
Is it in that same folder? I don't see it in that same folder.
It's not in the BMP folder. It's in the
Oh,
footage
okay.
and video folder.
All
Um,
right.
yeah, it's not.
Video, footage,
I forgot what number I just said.
3115.
Yeah,
Does that sound right?
3115. Yeah, that's it. 3115. Um,
Um, the footage folder is empty. Let's see, 3115. There we
no,
go.
my
I see it. I
yeah.
got it.
Okay.
I
This
got it.
is once you pull it up, you'll see that this is a cruise ship, and you can just let that video maybe or any of those videos in that area. You can let those keep running. Um,
Hmm. It's up now.
It's up. So 3062. No, we'll start it. Okay, I see what we're going to do. 3061. So what I'm trying to show you here is during COVID, how quiet the port was. You see one person right there, one person outside in an area that's usually bustling because this is where the cruise ships come in. So how about you go back right there where the arrow is?
Oh,
You
okay.
can,
Hold on.
yeah, just click back. No, up.
Oh, yeah, I play. Any of these other. By the way, just real quick, I hear my daughter's voices telling you to turn your phone sideways when you do video. That's the one,
They all
because my
tell me
children
that, and
check.
I always
Yeah,
forget. I know, I know.
they check me on that all the time.
I
Daddy,
know.
turn it sideways.
Right, right, right,
Anyway,
right, right,
but
right,
but
right. No, no, it's
so
great. I
that's
love it.
that's the only note I
No, I
have
love
so
it.
far.
No,
Anyway,
no, no, I love it. I love it. That should not be the only note that you have so far on some of this footage, but
hey,
it's okay. I love.
no,
Listen,
because
just
look, I think this is to me here, check this out. This is a completely off topic segue comparison or parallel, whatever. So I'm watching the new series about the making of the movie The Godfather.
mhm.
And what I keep noticing in the show is that every time they showed up at a new location, Francis Ford Coppola just took out his camera and started taking shots of what he intended to later film as part
Yeah,
of the
yeah, yeah.
movie.
Right,
So
right,
all I see right now is these are
right.
your
No,
I don't know if
exactly.
they're
No,
like
no,
your
thank you.
initial,
No, thank you. Yes.
so
Thank you for
it's the
comparing me
notes.
to Coppola. That alone, I'm good. Not that that is my basis or standard. Let's be clear. I'm not. I don't suffer from that need to be
No, I
compared to
hear you.
a European, director, whatever. But thank you. I'm glad you understand the genius. Okay, but
There you
listen,
go. That's all it
scroll
is.
scroll up
Yeah.
a little bit, and I
Hmm.
want no, I mean up, yeah, like that way. And I want you guys to just let these clips run. If you go up a little.
Oh, all of them.
No, no. You can come down a little to where you see the refinery in the background. I want to actually start getting yeah. So maybe those images there. No, you can, yeah, those images, they're very distant images. It's
This one here.
3065, 3066, 3067. Those are all
Hmm.
images of the refinery. Those are probably just pictures. But I want you
Yeah.
guys to see how massive and huge this thing is. The refinery, as I said, brought workers from all over the Caribbean. And me and you had a conversation some months ago when I was talking about the other book because you guys had some interest in Panama. And so
Yep.
I just
Yep.
wanted to take a second and bring us back to this conversation about Panama. Um, and try to draw what I've understood to be some parallels and differences between Aruba and Panama. Okay,
Mm.
so in the case of Panama, Panama clearly is part of Latin America, right? And so the United States, as we know, helped create Panama by basically giving it the weapons and ammunition they needed to break away from Colombia, right? And in exchange, they said, listen, because we've helped you become a country, give us this canal, right? Give us 12 miles or whatever. Let us blow a hole in your country. And that's all we want is our little zone, the Panama Canal zone. So you can have your country, but give us the zone. We'll bring everything. We'll bring the supplies. We'll bring the workers. We'll bring everything. We don't need anything from your country except this little spit of land, right? And that's the way the Americans did the Panama Canal, because Panama was a Latin American underdeveloped country, basically fought for by a bunch of peasants in Colombia who were angry with the Colombian ruling class, who wanted their own piece of the region. Now, Aruba is a little different because Aruba is a Dutch colony. So this is a European colony. And so the Americans had aspects of their imperialist project, which were established in places like Panama, that they brought with them. Yeah, you can play any of those. What these clips here are doing is these are continuing to show you how dead and quiet the downtown area was during COVID. Like, you know, and then there's a lot of points I wanted to make about that, like these cruise ships just sitting here while people are dying in the hospitals, right? Like how when money can't be made, the bosses would rather just dock their ships than use their ships as an opportunity to feed workers. So there's a
Mm.
lot of stuff like that I wanted to bring into the movie as well. But again, just taking it back to the historical context, right? Like Aruba is a Dutch colony, and they don't look at themselves as a colony because back in the 1950s, the Netherlands became a kingdom. Well, the Netherlands was a kingdom, and the kingdom of the Netherlands has all of these territories like Holland, St. Martin, Aruba. A lot of parts of Indonesia used to be part of the Dutch kingdom, and then the Dutch were forced to allow Indonesia to become independent because they were probably so revolutionary. So the Dutch also had Suriname, they had a bunch of places. And the Dutch lost Indonesia after World War II, but they did not lose their territories in the Americas. So they did not lose Suriname, they did not lose Curacao, Bonaire, Aruba, St. Martin. These are all Dutch colonies in the Americas. The first that they lost to independence was Suriname. But then they held on to the rest of them. So St. Martin, Curacao, Aruba are all still to this day part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, along with Holland. And so the idea is supposed to be that all of them have equal status, but that's never ever true. You really think Aruba's going to have equal status in the parliament with Holland? Right?
Hmm.
So a lot of this stuff got revealed during COVID because during COVID, the Dutch came in and basically fired the whole Aruban government. They kicked them out of office. They said, "You guys misused the COVID money, and you guys got to go." Like, how can you force a government out unless you have authority over them? So this idea that they all are equal citizens and equal status is completely untrue. The Dutch government came in and bailed out a lot of the islands, but when they bailed them out, the only people who really got the bailout money were the big businesses, the hotels, the workers, and the people who are entrepreneurs, and their only employee was themselves. They barely got any money from the government, and the people who really bailed out the small entrepreneurs were the larger businesses that their businesses were housed in. And that's because the larger hotels didn't want all of their shops to close, like all of their clothing shops and stuff inside of their stores. So that it was basically a private um, venture where the Dutch government allowed these capitalist enterprises, like the American businesses, to do their job of taking care of the small businesses, the entrepreneurs during COVID. So in any case, that's a digression. But the point that I was trying to make, more broadly speaking, is that when you look at the way the Americans had to build this refinery in Aruba, they couldn't simply duplicate what they'd done in other parts of the Americas because, like, when they invaded the Dominican Republic and Haiti, they couldn't just do that because this is another European colony, right? They couldn't just set up a military base like they did Guantanamo Bay, right? Like
Mhm.
This is a Dutch colony that they were setting up shop in. And again, just to make this point, the reason why the Americans chose Aruba is because the oil that they were refining came from Venezuela. There's a huge lake in Venezuela called Maracaibo, where a tremendous amount of this oil was harvested from. And so because Aruba, like Trinidad, is so close to Venezuela, the Americans chose to set up shop there. So Americans have been depending on Venezuelan oil. Standard Oil Company has been depending on Venezuelan oil since before World War II, which is part of the reason why the U.S. went so crazy when Chavez became president and tried to socialize the oil there, because he really made a departure from the long American relationship with Venezuela that existed in terms of imperialism. So I'm interested in, the Americans having to set up shop in a colony where they can't simply go in and bogart their way and do whatever they want, right? Where it's another European colony and they have to some extent, play fair. So I'm interested in what that means. But what you're going to see, one of the main points that I'm going to be trying to show you guys in this film is just that what the Americans did duplicate was their Jim Crow system of labor. And that's why I wanted to have that wall be one of the first images that you see when this movie comes on, just because what they did, like the Panama Canal, is they imported Black workers from Anglophone speaking countries. So now I want you to go back, and and when I say Anglophone, I mean English speaking Caribbean countries, because they needed workers that they could talk to. They needed workers that they could speak to. So that's very similar to the Panama Canal. That's why so many people from Barbados and Jamaica and those places live in Panama, is because the Americans recruited them to come over. And the same thing is with Aruba. So if you go back.
And then they still house them in largely de facto segregated communities.
And that's what I want to show you.
Okay, got you. Right on.
That's what I want to show you, is basically the favelas that the Black people lived in. So let me see. Can I see the full screen? Like right now it looks a little, because then I can see more quickly where the file is. Can you just expand it and make it a little, okay. I think maybe if you scroll up, in fact, go back to that folder I told you about, the BMP, which is Black Power Media. Yeah, go back to that folder. That picture right there of the brother with the dreads. If you play that, this was in 2018 before COVID. And just listen to him describe what Carnival is.
From St. Vincent, Trinidad, where you go all these. And the government? They're building this house and put them inside, yeah. For
what? Why they come?
To work at the refinery.
Okay.
Work at the refinery.
The refinery is for water?
Oil. So that's the village area. And this is where Carnival started again. All of us started in Trinidad, the people on the Western people start beating pans and stuff and go around the street.
Yeah, because they came for a carnival with them from their home
exactly.
island.
And then the Aruban people embrace it and create something from it. Yeah. But actually the English people who really, the Jamaican, the Trinidadian, Guyanese, St. Kitts, who really started it. Yeah. This is Chocolate City. Yep.
So like he said, it's Chocolate City. If you scroll to the next video, wait, no, that's not it. Well, actually, what I want you to hear is where it says copy of Bush Talk. I want you to listen to that, because this is a song that was made in Holland by a local guy about the impact of COVID on the people in Aruba.
Very much, and unfortunately we do have to talk about the coronavirus, because the U.S. just recorded its worst week for new cases since this pandemic began. More than 500,000 new COVID infections. Numbers are rising in 43 states, and roughly 1/3 of all new cases are coming from the Midwest.
You see, when a cappuccino flying wild and you ain't put extra tail on it, The song traders boss. In other words, if all you making the rules and breaking the rules, then tell me who we could trust. Take responsibility, cause the safety for we children is a must. How you gonna open the schools in a time like this when the virus picking up? That's like begging for even more problems you can't solve. Tell me what you gonna do when people really start getting sick and bodies start to drop. Hospital can't stop it, but they can't take so much. The clinics can't take so much. Cause when children get sick, it's home they going with it. That mean mother getting sick, father getting sick, brother, sister, everybody getting it. Tell me how you gonna handle it. Don't give them a mask and sanitizer for them to wash their hands. Tell them to lock up themselves in the house and don't come outside. But then it's too late. Talking with the people don't want to listen and only want to party. While all you know, America got more virus than anybody. But no, seems to me like all you care about is money and economy. So don't blame the people, it's the government. Cause all you open them gates for them planes to fly in. And I ain't saying the government got to babysit nobody like little children. No damn why saying, cause the people got responsibility too. But at the end of the day, all you is the ones they looking up to. So for you making rules and breaking the rules by sacrificing the children, opening them schools, nobody will listen to all you and over with. Listen to the voices. The plan is to come up with a solution to stop the suffering and to push back on COVID. Well, let me call it like it is, the Bill Gates and Fauci pandemic. Cause that's what it is, cause that was the plan to start with. Population control to wipe you off this planet. Evilness, are you listening? Then again, I still behind people saying that if the children them don't go school, they ain't gonna be learning nothing. Well, it's better for them to be home and not learning than to be standing up crying over them in a coffin. That's why I just pray to God to protect the children and people around the world, cause we all need saving. Lord, please forgive us for our sins and have our soul. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Cause if the situation don't change, plenty we mightn't make it. For some it's already too late. Rest in heaven for all those who ain't make it. They say when you're passing gone to the other side, it's all because of God's will. But then again, it still feels so hard. It feels so hard to accept the fact to know that they lose their life because of other people's wickedness. Cause in God create COVID, there's wicked people in this world doing it. One squeeze the vaccine in your veins till your brains can't take it. Then to control it like a puppet. Leaders of this world, are you listening? Putting the blame on the public, dying on solve it, that's weakness. No, I ain't say evilness, I say weakness. What the world need is leadership. Instead of only pointing fingers and complaining, talking about they ain't got no discipline. Cause that is a reflection of all yourself in the mirror are you looking in. They already got so many people getting sick, can't get medical help, dying. Some don't even have food to feed their children. I mean, if all you really care about the people them, then at least cut the bills them down to have them. But no, it's only more and more suffering. Meter getting cut, no water running. You could imagine, even when they go fishing, you're taking food from them. You mean to tell me you can't feel the pain? You can't feel the pain and see the suffering going down right in front of your eyes. It's like, oh, you only flying blind and don't even want to see the signs. Long time some used to lie and hide. Now who care about cry? Those the kind of things that make me want to cry. Yeah, the kind of things that make me want to cry. This is how I feel. And for the frontliners who risking their life every day, taking care of those getting sick, enough respect. God bless.
All right, that's good.
All right. Hey, that was hot. Even the anti-vax stuff. It was hot. It was even with it was hot.
Yeah, it's important to see what people's consciousness is. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of folks here obviously aren't. I don't think that a lot of people are anti-vax. Well, some of it is silly, but I mean, I think a lot of people here definitely do understand. They live surrounded by a lot of these bush teas. They're surrounded by a lot of these herbal things that really can help you build up your immune system. So they understand the way in which masses of workers around the world were just pumped with a vaccine rather than given the real lifelong alternatives which are required for you to have a healthier body. So it doesn't come from the same sort of petty bourgeois mentality of a lot of people in places like the US who just are individualist in their sort of anti-vax. It comes, in my opinion, from a much deeper understanding of how the herbs work and stuff, which isn't to say everybody who's anti-vax doesn't understand that, but there is an aspect of pettiness, I think, in a certain culture that isn't the case in some of these people here. But in any case, what I think what that clip does is it helps us hear the pain, which
Yeah.
COVID just exacerbated, right? Like COVID only made worse the pain that already existed, right? So, and that's really what I want a lot of people also, as you said, they don't necessarily need to, become revolutionary while on vacation, but I do want them to understand the exploitation and the issues that a lot of these workers are up against, when they go.
Right on. No, I appreciate all of that. And definitely want to hear from what people are, how people are, reacting to this, wherever they are, where they're coming from. Again, yeah, I just, I couldn't help but know that we don't always have to agree 100% on everything. It's still dope and always good to hear from these different perspectives, particularly those that we never hear about, the diaspora workers. So anyway, is there another clip we want to play, or
I mean, no, not necessarily. There are tons of clips there. All of them could be shown. Gichio said Biden's relationship with Evelyn Weaver Crowes, and I'm glad you brought that up, brother, because the interesting thing also, I suppose, that I could do with this documentary is really help flesh out the limits of what independence has meant around the world for Black and brown workers. Because Crowes, the original Crowes who fought for independence in Aruba, was some sort of a level of socialist. But I mean, and he was seen as a worker's man. He was seen as for the people. But independence was all, like, to me, in my opinion, Chetty Jagan might have been, a better example. But generally speaking, across the board, and Maurice Bishop, there were a lot of great guys across the Caribbean who tried to, pave the way for an independence that was not anti-worker. Like they tried to create an independence that allowed working people to, live off their land and increase their quality of life to some extent. But she is the descendant of, one of the original freedom fighters of the island. And she is, just as problematic as the rest of these folks who get involved in, not taking care of the people. So, I really just want to show the capitalist core of a lot of these economies and the limits of what government can do. So I'm glad you brought up that point, because I'm definitely going to look into that.
I just want to make sure there was another question again in the chat about the book of yours that we were talking about earlier. This is it. Red International and Black Caribbean Communists in New York City, Mexico, and the West Indies, 1919 to 1939. I'll, of course, put the link to our previous interview about this book in the show description. I don't think I put it there already, but if I can, just one, because I'm not exactly sure where we are with your time, but one question that I did want to raise, because I did go back and continue to try to read more of your book, which I still have not finished, unfortunately. But there was one part, I was reading chapter 6, The Temperament of the Age, and I just in terms of what you're doing now with the video, what we're trying to do with your documentary, rather, and what we're doing with trying to do with BPM, more broadly speaking, there was something that I was very interested in that you talked about in this chapter, which involved the role of the Black press in promoting communist struggle, radical struggle, workers' rights throughout the African diaspora. And of course, I can't find the exact note I'm looking for right now. But for instance, you said that the significance of radical newspaper history among Black workers and intellectuals, which linked New York and West Indies during the era of the Popular Front, is the specifics that I'm talking about here. But so I'm just wondering if there's a way to tie in that work very quickly, or that idea to what it is that you're doing here, and that is the role of the Black press and radical presses in pushing and people in a certain political direction, and of course supporting existing struggles.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that I haven't done much of, I've brought, radical newspapers out here to Aruba, published in the States, internationalist papers and things like that. And, folks definitely pick up on the key points being made in those papers published in Brooklyn. But I think the challenge is that it's a challenge because people's consciousness is not uniform, right? And so the way people understand and navigate their realities also isn't uniform. So even if exploitation and super exploitation are global, and that's part of what I want to be able to show in this book, is that it's not just, there's obviously super exploitation in the United States. Obviously you see the standard of living within the country, and you can see that everybody is not exploited on the same level. Everybody doesn't work the same amount of hours, get paid the same amount of wages for the work that they do. So, but I want folks to see that, that there are whole regions of the world where the average minimum wage in Aruba is what, $6 US, $6 an hour, the average hourly wage in Aruba. But food here is the same price. So food here is the same price, and people make half of what they make in the United States. That means that the economy is inherently built on the super exploitation of workers here, and that their buying power as consumers is always inhibited. And that's one of the things. There are other videos I have here where the young people talk about their frustrations. With one guy, he wants to produce video, and he talks about how hard it is to produce video because to actually get the cameras and the equipment he needs, he's got to pay double what people pay in the States, and he makes half of what people make in the States at his job, right? So I'm saying all of that to say that while super exploitation exists across the world, the way people experience it and how it manifests is not always the same. So, right, in places like Aruba, one of the main issues and frustrations a lot of young people have here is that they can't purchase the commodities that they want to be able to purchase. And that's really one of the biggest gripes that people all over the world feel about capitalism, is that they can't get the things that they want to get. And I think that that's also true in the United States, but in the US, it's like longer hours, people working longer hours. They're still able to get many of the commodities that they want. I mean, look at all these Black people at Soul Beach who ended up in Aruba. Like, people are still able to go see Mary on a beach in Aruba and buy a flight. Their exploitation doesn't stop them from doing that. And so because of that, it creates a whole set of languages and ways that people navigate living that is not the same around the world. And so, here, honestly speaking, in Aruba, I see a sort of basic kind of socialism, and I don't know if that's the word, but there's a basic communalism. That's probably the word, of forced survival or communalism, which you could also say you see in the hood in many places in the States, but you see it here. I experience it here in a very visceral way. There's a forced communalism because so many people are without. So many people, their car situation is precarious, their food situation is precarious, their work situation is precarious. So people depend on each other every day. And so when you have newspapers calling for revolution and overthrowing the system, it's not that people here don't understand that or don't agree. They do, and their lives point to the need for the end of capitalism, but they're already working together. They're already surviving and struggling together every day. So when you say the word revolution, they don't know exactly what you mean by that, because do they mean you want them to take guns right now into their hands and like go stand at the refinery and take it? They don't know necessarily how to picture that, because they already are doing a lot of what's required for revolution, which is just working together and depending on each other, which is something a lot of people in America don't do. Because America is designed in such an individualist way that revolution has, in my opinion, a much more romantic And there's layers that everybody around the world isn't going to face, because in a lot of parts of the world, workers are much more communal. So the one conversation I haven't recorded yet is I really do want to sit around with a group of folks and hear what their understanding is of socialism or revolution, because in many ways I think that they're already doing a lot of that work, though it is embedded in a capitalist structure, and they're often trying to hustle each other, and they're always mad at each other about stealing money from each other and stuff like that. But there's still a basic camaraderie that exists there because they all need each other. In terms of coming back to your question about media, I think that is really the challenge. What I was trying to show in that book is that some of those newspapers are like Plain Talk. That was a newspaper in Jamaica in the 1930s. And then in every island, Barbados, St. Kitts, everybody had these newspapers that they were producing. And I think that what the newspapers did was they talked about very local specific situations happening on plantations in each of the island. But then they were also able to interject internationalist struggles and politics from around the world. So they all talked about the invasion of Ethiopia from Mussolini. They all talked about that. That was like the ubiquitous issue that really brought a lot of Black workers into the struggle in the 1930s, was the Italian bombing of Ethiopia in 1935 when Haile Selassie was the emperor. And so, you know, those newspapers were useful because they reflected, I guess, the cliches, the local struggles, but they also touched on global issues that ignited an anti-imperialist, fire under a lot of Black workers. And I don't know what that would look like today, in the sense that the international struggles and consciousness, the struggles aren't there. So it's hard to forge that kind of local global in these sources, because what is the actual material basis for the global struggle, unless there's something you guys see that I'm not seeing? Like, is there a global struggle right now that everybody's engaged in that we could magnify? Anyway, I feel like I'm rambling, but I think that the answer to your question is that we take a lot for granted when we're not in these places, because our language and way of formulating and articulating the problem, even if we're correct, is incomplete. So you actually have to have people from places like Aruba writing in, speaking on the shows. You have to do the interviews with them constantly. They have to be on the team. They have to be one of the regular, producers. They have to be part of the mechanics of the production of those media, or else the media will always be blindsided and incomplete.
Jared, you muted, Jared.
Yeah, my bad. Got you. Thank you. There's so much to get to, and I don't think you were rambling at all. I think yeah. So there's a couple things I want to say very quickly, because I know unfortunately we have to get ready to move on here. But one, before I forget, Dr. Stevens, let's talk offline, because I can't speak for the platform, unilaterally, but I'd like us to start talking with you about supporting this documentary work you're doing. I think there's ways for us to collaborate if you're interested. So let's talk offline about that. And then I do think there is an international material basis for struggle. The problem I see is that that the work you're doing now and the work we're trying to attempt here at BPM is so important, because it is trying to highlight the existing connections and negate the tremendous amount of propaganda, etc., that impedes people from seeing the connections in the work that they're already doing. So everywhere I go and everywhere I look, I see Black people and brown people still in struggle over their identities, cultures, sovereignty. There's still working people struggling for control over resources, improved working conditions, etc. It's just, it feels that they're all too often disparate and separated at the level of consciousness. So that's why I'd like to continue to support the work you're doing, easily by inviting you back to talk more about that work, but also as again, I'm hoping we can talk offline to talk about this specific documentary project as well. Okay. But anyway, Geechee, did you want to anything before we unfortunately have to start to move on here? But yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, I was kind of taken aback by the fact that the president is the descendant from a freedom fighter, and it kind of makes me think of even that the chap that you was talking about, that quote from the African Nationalist in 1935 about adjusting your philosophy to suit the temperament of the age. And I'm wondering how much people, because I know in America, like, there are people who would tell you that people like Fred Hampton would have evolved into a black capitalist. And so you see in Aruba, a descendant of a socialist is kind of like pro-capitalist. And I'm wondering if majority of the people are adjusting their ideology to like try to find some way into like, I don't know, reforming capitalism or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, listen, that is probably one of the most complicated ideological contradictions that we need to grapple with, right? Like how much of where people are at is intentional greed and efforts to undermine the revolutionary, pioneering work of the past, and how much of it is necessary adjustment given the limitations of where things are, right? So I think that even though that is always an important question, right? Like, how do you, as you said, I'm glad you brought it up because, I don't even remember half of that book. So the temperament of the age, I forgot about that whole moment. But I think that the struggle for me is that when you talk to, as Jared was saying, a lot of these folks all over the world, in my opinion, what I hear everyone saying is capitalism doesn't work. It doesn't work for them. They're not growing. Their potential as humans isn't being realized. There are a couple of clips there that you guys didn't see of these two young people that I interviewed talking about what it's like in Aruba, and they were just like, I don't see no future for myself here. I don't see it. And I hear the same thing from the young people in Newark. I hear the same thing. And so I think that even though the language and the might not sound the same, we can't simply say workers of the world unite or sing the Internationale the way we did. But I think the content of the capitalist exploitation and the bosses have the same tricks, and they've been using the same tricks for hundreds of years. The bosses use the same tricks on us over and over and over. And I think that workers know that. They know that. That's why I think a lot of people don't vote, because they just know that it doesn't make much of a difference. So I think that you're raising the most really important question is, where do you draw the line between something being revolutionary and something being counter-revolutionary? Like, when is something not in the interest of the people, and when is it? Right? But I think that still there are certain truths about capitalism that don't change. And when you can't acknowledge them, then you are counter-revolutionary. Listen, I'm going to say this. I'm in Newark, New Jersey, where Ras Baraka is the mayor. Ras Baraka, the son of Amiri Baraka. And right now, Raz is overseeing an administration that has political prisoners in their jail system, right? Like, I am living it. And Raz still thinks he's the most radical mayor he thinks he's probably one of the most radical people in America right now, because he's become a mayor. And so he runs the state, and he can utilize the police and the fire the way he wants. Like, I know these people. He's holding up a copy of R. Palmer Dutt and the Popular Front as he does these things, thinking he's probably the most radical person, right? But I mean, I'm living the realities of those contradictions, and so many other people are in Newark, New Jersey. So if we do want to have a conversation about revisionism, which is, I think, what you're alluding to, which is, in my opinion, fundamentally counter-revolutionary, Newark, New Jersey is a great place to do a case study on that. It's a great place, and I can bring.
Hey, even his father supported Obama. Even his legendary father supported Obama. So, you know.
So anyway, let's do that. Let's have that conversation as well. And I'm glad, Jared, that you just reminded me that I have a commitment to this BPM as well and what you guys are doing. And I'm glad you reached out to me a while ago and that I didn't just sort of avoid the task, but said, listen, let me see what's up with this documentary. So you really forced me to have to pull some things together and think more deeply about what we're trying to accomplish here. And so I appreciate you and Geechee for being so observant and perceptive, like to like a T, stuff I wasn't even thinking about. And I look forward to talking to you guys again in the future, and apologize for the technical.
Oh, no apologies necessary, Dr. Stevens. And again, I am not obviously intending to harass you, but it may get to the point where you have to politely let me know to fall back and leave you be as I continue to invite you back and encourage your involvement. And as I follow up, as I said, I will offline about some support for your documentary work. I think anyway, I'd like to at least pitch that. So thank you very much, Dr. Stevens, for coming through. And again, everybody, please do get her book, the full title of which is Red International and Black Caribbean, Communists in New York City, Mexico, and the West Indies, 1919 to 1939. Please get that, and I'll put the link to our previous interview in the show notes. Thank you very much, Dr. Stevens. Look forward to catching you next time.
Guys. Thank you so much.
All right.
All
peace. All right, everybody, let's take a very quick break and come right back. And I think, Geechee, you and I can draw a parallel to the next set of stories we're going to get to here in just a second. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. So, you know, it's funny. I don't know. There's two things that came up recently that come up from time to time when people who are ignorant of me and what I've been trying to do, which is understandable. It shouldn't be expected that everybody know this, but when they want to be, you know, publicly hateful and ignorant, one of the things that keeps coming up is people will make some sort of joke about the selfishness and self-reference in the title, I Mix What I Like. So there's two things that I'm reminded of in just that quick transition. One, the echoing I Mix What I Like that I did for my mixtapes years ago was meant initially to be a play on and parody of what DJ Clue used to do with his mixtapes, which I and some others always thought was part of the downfall of the mixtape game. Just the whole taking somebody's track and not really mixing or DJing and just putting an exclusive new track in it, DJ Clue, Clue. And then you would hear that all throughout the streets and people's cars and mixtapes and stuff like that. So that's what that was. I Mix What I Like, for those who are the uninitiated and the whatever, is again a pun and an homage to I Write What I Like from Steve Biko and his emancipatory journalism produced in the anti-apartheid African liberation struggle in Azania or South Africa. So when I was doing mixtapes, and I actually would have to honestly probably credit this with my man Dr. Haight is coming up. I believe he's the first one that really come up with the I Mix What I Like, which became the title of my first book, and then the show. It's not meant as a reference to I as in Jared, but I as in Steve Biko, and more broadly the Pan-African liberation struggle. So just that little bit of quick clarity for a couple people in social media who probably wouldn't be interested in the accuracy of that anyway, but there it is. Okay, Geechee, I did not show you this in advance, so this for you I think will be a brand new original watch or viewing. I would like us to look at a little bit of a conversation that happened recently titled "Can Crypto Be a Driver for Racial Equality?" And as I said at the beginning of the show this morning, I'm going to challenge yours, as was mine, and maybe many in our audience, our tendencies to anything race first. And this is like the contradiction of a race first analysis, because now some of these folks I've come into some engagement with over the last couple of years in my own criticism of crypto, and particularly in the Black political space. So let's just look at this little clip here. We're not going to watch the whole thing, obviously, but I think just enough to have a little bit of fun, and then we can go from there.
Rohan, we talked a lot about consumer protection, regulation. What do you think needs to be done to protect communities of color, whether that's in Congress or in regulators? What are you advocating for?
And I think the first thing is just some skepticism about this industry hype. I mean, we're not talking about an industry that is full of people of color at the top. We're talking about venture capitalists who are the same white men who've been funding the rest of these industries beforehand. We're talking about a for-profit industry at the intersection of Silicon Valley and Wall Street that aren't going to provide services that aren't profitable. They aren't a charity. They aren't a public good. The alternative here isn't the status quo of a banking system. It's public goods. It's the kinds of things that other racial equity advocates have been arguing for years. There's a reason why the people involved in saying crypto is amazing are usually people representing industry and entities like Circle, like Facebook's DM, that are going to eventually take the data that they generate here and use it in ways that the people involved in those systems don't want. And so I think it's very important not to start from the assumption that people who have a financial interest in these things are necessarily going to be caring about a broader interest beyond that, because that's...
So I just want to stop it there real quick to clarify, make sure everybody, so this, the one white participant in this conversation, Dr. Rohan Gray, who may end up on this show at some point, is in this conversation with Dante Disparte and Cleve Messidor, who, as you'll see, Dante in particular working with Circle, Cleve, I forgot exactly who she works with, but I came into contact with her a couple of years ago at the Howard University Black Blockchain Conference. But they have vested interests. Okay, so what he's saying is people telling you that crypto is going to help Black racial inequality are often connected to the industry themselves. Okay, so I just want to make sure everybody's just, catching that real quick.
That's not how markets work. And having Black capitalism or wealth creation be the goal is itself a contested way of improving a lot of African-American communities or people of color in general. I came to this from developing contexts where the mobile money inclusion narrative was used to push very dangerous surveillance tools on people. And this myth that crypto is decentralized, I think, is not true. We have companies, we have developers, we have venture capitalists. And when it comes to sound regulation, when we proposed sound regulation, every one of those people were opposed to it until it became inevitable. And then they say, well, we're here for regulation, we're here for good things. But I remember when Circle opposed those things. I remember when the banking licenses that many of these so-called good stable coins were asking for now were the thing that they were opposing. And the reason that they're accepting it now is because the political winds have changed, not because they would have done it of their own volition. So I think it's really important not to take at the word of people who have a financial interest in something other than equity.
Well, if I can respond to that.
One more pause here, because I want to, before I forget, I want to make sure I give her credit, because people may not remember. And at the time, I definitely got a lot of pushback from people who didn't agree or believe this point. But one of the points that Dr. Gray, Rohan Gray, was bringing up there about the data, the and again, this is something that is not discussed enough. I just want to make sure I can pull this up here. So I got to stop this real quick, because I want to show that and encourage people to check out what is now, what is now an entire playlist that I have been compiling on Cryptoganda. And I hope that that noise isn't too much in the background. That's crazy. But going way back to this conversation that I had with Sab Solomon, cryptocurrency is about data mining, not economic. Seb Solomon, that is about data mining, not economic liberation. She was one of the first that I remember certainly raising this issue that I don't see being discussed very often, particularly as it pertains to Black and brown people in the diaspora, is that the reason so much crypto is being pushed on Black and brown communities here and abroad is for this purpose, is to get people to be giving up their data to these companies who turn that data into huge revenue for themselves. So that was part of his point there. Anyway, so let me just let some of the responses go so we can hear the contradictions.
To that, because
and please tag me in as well.
Yeah, so I have to say that when it comes to the $1.7 billion, 1.7 billion people who are unbanked, underbanked that Dante mentioned before, yeah, the industry is absolutely going after that. But in the US, I think that number is estimated between 65 to 70 million. Who's been tackling that? It has been Black innovators in crypto. And unfortunately, we are hidden figures, even though we lead that adoption. So for the last decade.
That's so whack. So she already has changed his topic from economic inequality and data mining to being underbanked, as if, again, being underbanked is the cause for Black economic inequality. And then she's already turned it around to who's been addressing that issue. All right, go ahead, Geechee.
I just love the way how he shake his head confused. Like he's like, nah, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Decade, myself and other people in the crypto industry who look like me have been doing the education, have been doing the work. And actually next week, we're actually going to be having a meeting with those leaders and Senator Cory Booker to talk about what we want for priorities. Unfortunately,
So again, she's saying we're the ones in the community doing the work, talking to Black and brown people about their situation, not you, white man. And that work is we're aligning ourselves with Cory Booker. So this was the issue that I was raising even at the conference where she and I, not on the same panel, but at different panels, were raising these issues, where I'm saying that it's a very conservative vis-a-vis where we are argument that Black and brown people are bringing to Black and brown communities around crypto, all of which is aligning themselves with mainstream economic analyses, politicians, et cetera, and so forth. So my bad again. So anyway.
I appreciate your comments, Rohan, but it concerns me that members look to you for policy recommendations for people of color, and not those are very people of color who are knocking on their doors to actually do this work. We did this. It was Black and Latino innovators in crypto who went to our communities and educated our community, not the industry. We're not being duped by industry. What we're doing is focusing on equity. We are not just holding cryptocurrency. We're building products and services in cryptocurrency. I can cite projects like Guapcoin, a Black woman creating a cryptocurrency for the Buy Black movement. I could point to in Oakland, where there's a team of people building a currency for cities, working with mayors and legislatures. So,
all of which is
we
collapsing.
have agency. We can make these decisions ourselves. This is not the industry duping us. This is us in the US focusing on equity. I know.
So again, Guapcoin and all these other Black, so the idea which I talked about when I did the criticism of Bitcoin in Black America, that book, some time ago. The idea, again, the rebranding of Black people adopting white patterns of capitalist behavior as somehow being Black sovereign liberation activity is, and being defined as doing the work in the community is I mean, this is Cryptoganda at its finest, and this is exactly where it triggers me and has encouraged my own involvement to whatever extent in this issue, is when Black and brown people go to Black communities to tell them with this hustle that don't listen to the white man who's offering up an actual legit criticism. We're the ones doing the work in the community to help you. This is I'm sorry, man. This is crazy.
Dante wants to get in here.
Well, no, I would just say, I mean, obviously, I clearly share Clev's indignation at the mere intimation that people of color who look like me. I'm an officer of a soon-to-be public company that is regulated in all the states that have regulations for money transmission. And I think the commentary, it requires an indignant response. But I think Rohan raises important points, which is that you don't just change systems and inequities that are baked and hardwired into our country and into our society that have taken hundreds of years to hardwire and fester by merely getting regulated and licensed, right? Which we've done. You don't just change it by sitting through all the public hearings that matter. I was in the Senate hearing, a Black person who's the first one to get through high school or college who was born poor in the poorest part of the United States. And the financial inclusion question passed over my head and went to two white professors who were sitting next to me. So even in the highest chambers in our land, the Black person isn't seen. And so I am a slightly indignant receiver of Rohan's commentary, but where I will add a weight to his point is that we can't just observe these problems, we have to do something about it. My first act at Circle was to launch a program called Circle Impact. In that program, we had three basic promises. Number one, a share of USDC reserves will be allocated to community banks and minority depository institutions across the country to the tune of billions. What have you done on that same score? Number two, on financial literacy, we will partner with HBCUs across the country to make sure people are not just participants and observers, but builders, and they can do exactly what Clev has described, agency. Number three, we will move the needle materially on humanitarian interventions around the world, as we have done with Venezuela. And I guarantee you, Professor Rohan, with due respect, by the time we are done measuring that scorecard, all of the rest of the world would have observed these challenges. We're doing something about it because people like me sit at the officers' table.
Is it okay if I respond? I mean, I think that the first thing is I very much appreciate your comment about agency, which is why I also take offense at the idea that I'm somehow a puppet master for designing legislation in consultation with offices of Congresswomen like Rashida Tlaib and Ayanna Pressley, who proposed the Stable Act that Circle opposed vociferously at the time, which was the regulatory approach that Circle has now come to adopt, which is that it is important to get a prudential banking license to participate in this industry. It is also why I worked with Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley to design the Public Banking Act, which was an attempt to provide financial inclusion without for-profit industry in the middle of that system, providing the kinds of services that the private for-profit banking industry has failed to provide for 100 years, but somehow we're supposed to assume that it's going to be different this time. So it isn't my decisions that those policies came out there. It's people who were elected to lead those communities, not elected to make profit for shareholders, but actually represent the interests of those communities. And when they heard the arguments made by the Blockchain Association, which is an industry representative association, Clev, let's be honest, and when they heard the arguments from people like Jeremy Allaire at Circle, which is a white guy leading your company backed by white guy venture capital, Dante, let's be honest, they were not persuaded that those were in the best interest of their communities or in the tradition of racial equity that they advocate for. So this isn't coming from me, this is coming from communities and a genuine vision of racial equity that is not grounded in capitalism. And I think it's important to acknowledge that what you're describing as doing things is the same thing that Facebook says when it builds an ecosystem that surveils people and takes their data and lies about it. It's the same thing that Tether says when they create a fraudulent backing system and get sued by the New York Department of State Financial Services and the Attorney General. So doing things is very easy when you're backed by venture capital and your interests are profit. It's harder to do things in the name of genuine equity.
Hey, man, listen, that blank, that blank she was having was rough. She about to have a nervous breakdown.
I mean, so the other buzzword right next to financial literacy for me, the other buzzword that I get triggered by is agency. this idea that the individual or a community is somehow more powerful than the structures that impact them and the societies that impact them. And it's also a buzzword used in these exact settings so that people can say, we don't need government intervention. We don't need a revolution. We don't need political power. We just need people's agency to be activated. And then, by the way, I just want to follow up on what he's saying there and just show you, like, this is what he's talking about. You got this is the agency that Dante's talking about. Circle launches initiative to boost global financial inclusion back in November 2021. This is the CEO of Circle, which is a payment services company that operates stablecoin. So it benefits when you invest and exchange in the crypto world. Has launched an initiative aimed at helping minorities and women, as well as supporting humanitarian efforts. So Dante, who was in the conversation right there, is part of announcing this effort. And the idea that billions of dollars, he threw that word around as if there's something new in a call to have corporations invest in minority-owned depository institutions, as if that's going to generate billions for those communities. That's not factual. There's no historical precedent for that. If anything, it creates wealth for the companies and the investors and the banks that loan, dole out these loans, et cetera, and so forth. So, and then they're going to create a digital finance literacy program for HBCUs, which I've already talked about, impacting Morgan State. If it's not the exact same one, it's something similar. And then something I'm going to come back to in a minute is this issue here about venture capital funds for blockchain projects. So anyway, this is the agency he's talking about, bringing white finance capital to the Black community. Is somehow what he's claiming is agency and liberation for Black people. So anyway, Geechee, go ahead, or if you got something more, I'm going to come back and we can. I'm going to play just a few more minutes of this. But,
no, I was just saying, like, it's kind of like this concept of still teaching financial literacy, now it's crypto literacy, and it seems like these people who are creating the services, they're selling this idea of, like, hey, you can get self-sovereign, but, like, they have no evidence of it actually working for anybody, or even anybody that they sell. Like, so it's like the financial literacy experts who are selling, like, financial stability that they don't actually have themselves. So
Tafari, you right on it. This is where we need to be with it. This is a new hate award, the Rohan No Marley, John Not Brown Crypto with some currency award. That's it. We got our first nominee.
I want to jump in here.
It is coming from you, though. You are the sole architect of the Stable Act. Like, they're coming to you, and who in the industry, who are Black and Latino, are you working with? And
my colleague and co-author Raul Carrillo, who worked at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, is the co-author of those with me. The fact that I took the public lead on that has nothing to do with the number of people involved.
It does, and I think the industry, especially those of us Black and Latino, were really resistant to the Stable Act, and unfortunately, we can no longer move forward when solutions are being led by 2 or 3 people, and those
in the industry
are not participating.
Okay, so I just want to, I have to stop it here to I want to make sure people are clear about what they're debating. The Stable Act and is important because, again, so for people like me and others, part of the, if folks will remember that part of my argument against cryptocurrency being of value to making any real change is that we don't want a situation where the consumer in a consumer-based economy is not protected, or where the good God, or where shout out to the trash collectors, appreciate you, love you all, appreciate you, shout out to them. But if in advance of a revolution in a consumer-based economy where instead of praising consumers and having the wealth that consumption creates be redistributed back to consumers, instead of that, the cryptocurrency argument takes us in an even worse direction where consumers have no protection in these encrypted exchanges with private individuals, pseudonymously protected private individuals, where there's no recourse if you get ripped off and you can't even find the person or the money once it's gone. If there was even a point we're getting to, which we're not, where crypto and Bitcoin in particular is being used as actual currency, which is a whole other thing. But instead of that, the crypto world doesn't want any consumer protection. So the Stablecoin Transparency Act is a bill, as it says here, requires a stablecoin issuer to hold all reserves associated with each fiat currency backed stablecoin they issue, in certain government securities, or 2, fully collateralized security repurchase agreements, or 3, US dollars or other non-digital currency. A fiat currency-backed stablecoin is a digital asset backed by a non-digital currency and is redeemable on a one-to-one basis in that currency. Now, of course, this has already been the case with it, which is why he mentioned the issue with Tether, which is CoffeeZilla and others have expertly shown is undergirding even Bitcoin. What they're showing is the claim that these stable coins are in fact stable and connected to something else, again, a stable asset, is fictional. They're not doing that. It's not happening in that way. And it's left to, again, an unregulated, speculative Ponzi scheme, greater fool theory situation. So here then you have a black woman, specifically a Latina from the Dominican, and a black man, I think from the United States, telling this white dude that he is the problem because he's trying to get the government involved in protecting consumers, and they're saying you're hurting the sovereign liberation agency inspired efforts that we're trying to lead to help our communities. So they adorn themselves in their blackness and their brownness to deflect against the whiteness, all while engaging in the ultimate white behavior of capitalism, imperialism, absence of consumer protection, et cetera, and so forth. So it's quite remarkable. Now, and then lastly, before I come back to this, and Geechee, if you want to jump in, please do, is that granted, this particular conversation has not gotten a lot of attention, given the relative low view count of the video, but the arguments in this particular discussion are magnified and extending throughout the Cryptoganda metaverse, pun intended, and particularly and worse so the black public sphere. Anyway, let me stop there. Geechee, did you want to jump in?
No, I didn't have anything else.
Okay. Here we go. Let me just come back to this. A couple more minutes here.
Those in the industry were opposed. ACRE, other racial equity groups were endorsers of the bill. And again, it's easy to pretend that you're speaking for the entire African-American community. I would never claim that, but it is important to note that you are representing an industry association, and Dante's organization is headed by a white guy and backed by shareholders who are disproportionately not black. So let's be very clear whose voices are.
I'm very honest. I represent Black and Latino leaders in crypto. Every event I've had has been that. So I'm happy to bring all of them. And even each year we bring a delegation of women of color from blockchain across the nation to Washington so they could speak, they can have voice. So that's what we want.
All right, so I'm going to stop it there. I'll put the link in the description if people want to see the whole thing. But to me, that's a perfect place to stop, because part of what she does in the work that Clev was claiming is to bring Black people together for the purposes of raising capital for their private endeavor and businesses in the crypto space, which is where I wanted us to get to now. So that's why I wanted to leave it there. It was a perfect kind of segue to this other story that I always think is funny, but you know, once this story came out yesterday, all these different people started tagging me and asking me, you know, what I thought about it and what I was, you know. So I'm like, again, I get to be the crypto critic or whatever. But JayZ and Twitter founder JackDorsey announced BitcoinAcademy financial literacy program. Oh boy. JayZ has teamed up with Twitter founder JackDorsey once again for a new financial literacy program called the BitcoinAcademy. As reported by Billboard, the program will be held for residents of the Marcy Houses Project in Brooklyn, New York, where Hove was born and raised. The two are funding the educational initiative, which promises to provide education and empower the community with knowledge on the world of cryptocurrency and other financial investments. All residents of the Marcy Houses complex will be able to get involved completely for free, and there's plans to bring initiative to other neighborhoods in the future. Now, again, what is the standard line, everybody? When you are being given a product for free, you are what's being sold. And so again, just like what we saw in that last video clip, these promises that agency and liberation are coming to Black and brown people is only in the context of white venture capital and extraction of data. So anyway, the project is being supported by Dorsey's Bitcoin-focused company, Block, and the Sean Carter Foundation in collaboration with Crypto Blockchain Plug and Black Bitcoin Billionaire. And of course, I highlighted those because that's where selfishly my own crossover comes into play, as we'll look at here in just a second. But anyway, Geechee, your initial thoughts when you saw this story?
One, I saw the what's the guy who's the founder of the Black Bitcoin Billionaire? He's leading the free classes. But I started just watching him again. Like I mean, I've seen nothing but a clown, and he reminds me of the two dudes that you was debating, because I guess they all, Isaiah and the other one, they all kind of blend in together. But
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
But I mean, he says that his goal is to attract people with the word Bitcoin and billionaire because it's just attractive. Not that he actually is even close to $1 billion. And again, all I see is literally crypto literacy sellers who hoping that whatever they sell will create some kind of wealth in the future, and it's pretty stupid at this point to me. Like
so
Lamar Wilson, yeah.
Yeah, so this was it turns out that this is the Black Bitcoin Billionaire. He and I, not that we met or were on at the same time, but we were both edited into this MSNBC podcast that I've talked about already, but I'll put the link again in the show notes. And it's so that's what the first thing I saw when it was that, so Lamar Wilson, a software engineer and entrepreneur based in Lexington, Kentucky, is all in on cryptocurrency, but really he's all in on one kind of crypto, Bitcoin. He preaches about it everywhere he can, including on his popular show on Clubhouse called Black Bitcoin Billionaire. So it is the name of a show, as much as you said is an aspiration. And as is pointed out, I think right here, he has a deal with Cash App to help promote cryptocurrency. So again, it's the same thing. It's Black sovereignty, wrapped around as a branding, very white venture capital, traditional exploitative behavior. So as you point out, he's not a billionaire. He has a show on Clubhouse titled The Black Bitcoin Billionaire, and he is involved in with this endeavor, and this is again where the crossover comes, because as we've been critical of before, Nigel Roberts, who has been working with Hill Harper in promoting Cryptoganda or cryptocurrency to Black communities, is co-running this program for JayZ and JackDorsey with her company Crypto Blockchain Plug. Now, I tried to go into a little bit of a deep dive and got sidetracked because I thought I was onto something, but I think it's bad labeling. So I'm glad I checked on it, because there's another company that has a very similar name to Crypto Blockchain Plug that is in the same space, that was recently bought out by another larger company. And okay, let me back up. Let me just back up for a second. Let me back up before I get into all of that. Crypto Blockchain Plug, founded by Nigel Roberts, is our team, your team, meet the creative, involved in industry. It doesn't, so Nigel Roberts and Dimitri Roberts are the heads of this. Nigel, who we've talked about before in terms of her work with Hill Harper, and so this is the team. And I was looking at this and I was trying to find out, but who are the investors? Who supports this? Who are all involved, and what exactly do they do? And one of the reasons why it was hard to come across some more information is because it's a private company. It's not public, so they don't have to disclose everything. And I don't pay all the fees to get into all like the Bloomberg, corporate exposing documents or whatever. But what they do is, it says here, impacting lives through cryptocurrency education. We are here to educate our community about the digital revolution that is upon us. We offer a multitude of services. Crypto Blockchain Plug is the preeminent Bitcoin location in the area. It is a brick and mortar, as they like to tell everybody. They have an actual space that you go to in LA, and where you can, you can take classes, host events, talks, and a trading floor for crypto virgins and experienced cryptopians alike. In crypto, they say Bitcoin to the moon, and we are here to help the community zip up their space units. All right, so they've had a lot of attention in corporate media, where they offer up a lot of the same Cryptoganda we've been critical of here a lot already. They do classes, they buy and sell crypto, and they do venue renting, because again, it is a brick and mortar space, so you can actually. So what I was wondering was, for those who paid attention to the WeWork scandal, I was wondering if this is like a Black WeWork, because they have this physical space, 3,000 square feet facility that you can rent and make use of for your own business endeavors. And it seems to operate very much like WeWork, which was, the whole thing of buying buildings and then renting them out to various companies, and then claiming that you've got some new tech and some revolution, and running off of billions of people's dollars. And because I could not find, so what led me down that initial rabbit hole is I was trying to say, like, who's funding this? Who's supporting this? And because again, when you go to the, who's our team and all of that kind of thing, it's just these handful of people. And there's nothing about where the money came from, any of that. So, and because it's private, I just assumed. So when I went to some of these financial services websites that are free, because of some of the name confusion and overlap, and in fact, some people I think that this is and actually listing this company as being bought by a bigger company for $6 million. I said, well, that would have made sense, that a bigger white-owned company in the crypto space that invests in smaller crypto operations might have bought this up as part of their platform, given her the operating capital to buy this space to do their little WeWork type whatever. But it turns out, I think, at least, I'm not confident enough to try to report it anyway. I think that they've mislabeled something, and are talking about a different group. That said, though, and then I'll stop here, at least for a second, is that I don't know where all the money came from for all of this, and what is supporting all this. We could make assumptions about the connections with JayZ, JackDorsey, Hill Harper, because again, one of the resources here is the Black Wall Street wallet that Hill Harper has produced. We've already been critical of that. I can, put the links to that in the show notes as well, showing how, among other things, it's backed by white tech and crypto exchange services. So this idea that it's going to lead to some sort of Black sovereign reality and liberation is, again, whatever, but it's nonsense. Not whatever, this is nonsense. But yeah, so that's it. Those are my notes. Hill Harper connection, Black Wall Street wallet, a Black WeWork potential situation, and anyway.
I saw at the bottom of the page they had a tour. So Nija and Hill Harper is guiding them in I guess a tour in Tulsa or something like that.
No, well, they had gone on I think a year or two ago, they had done a digital revolution tour, where it says here, the revolution will be digitized. And Hill Harper and Nija Roberts, I think it's already occurred. They went already on oh no, there's maybe a new one coming up for 2022. But it's a tour where they go around and promote cryptocurrency as revolution. So it's the second annual Digital Financial Revolution tour, where she and Hill Harper go around, and that's why when we covered this before, and Hill Harper went on Roland Martin, for instance, a year or so ago, I think that was part of the tour. And that's basically it. It's them saying, invest in crypto. And so again, I can't prove it with this, but with the Hill Harper Black Wall Street wallet, everybody who invests makes money for the wallet or for Hill Harper, and then they make money for the exchanges that handle the actual transactions of purchasing or trading Bitcoin or Satoshis, which he was advocating. And I'm assuming it's the same here, that part of what supports this operation is the money generated by producing investors into the cryptocurrency space, and having people sign up for wallets, get on an exchange platform. Part of what they offer is, I think it says somewhere, you get $15 when you sign up for a course. Everybody gets $15, or when you become something like a kind of supporter. I forgot where I saw it somewhere on here. It said, if you become a certain level of supporter, you get $15 in Bitcoin added to your account every however long, or something like that, every year or every month or something like that. But you're giving much more away per month, and $15 in Bitcoin is not going to make you isn't going to do you any good. But I can't. But my point is, I think where their money is in bringing people into the space, and that's how they get their funding and get their support and all of that, and make money for themselves. So that's what I think is ultimately going on here. The last, that's it.
I'm curious where people getting caught up at. So in that other article you had, it talked about how these people are talking about, the communities who've been kept out of banking, traditional banking, and investing in a wealth accumulation. But like are people thinking that they're getting in on Bitcoin soon enough to where if they hold the money, hold whatever stock they have, Black people are now going to be wealthy based off of their protect. I guess I'm confused on where people are getting caught up on it and how is this not really easy to see as is scamming or just
because I think it's so for instance, and I'm trying to do this from memory. I'll definitely put the link to this because we really went in I think a 2-part deep dive on this, but Hill Harper's Black Wall Street wallet, for instance, I think is a good microcosmic explanation for this. First of all, it's heavy promotion using famous Black people. So that already, it uses a similar set of catchphrases and statements and claims that everybody just repeats when most people don't understand how the existing economy works, much less how a cryptocurrency dominated economy would change anything. So they're telling people, invest now. You're getting in. For instance, they say that cryptocurrency is the internet of the 1990s. So in other words, if you had invested in the internet in the 1990s, you would be in a certain level of wealth and power today. Which I think is a funny example for them to use, because if all that has happened with the history of the internet is greater levels of surveillance, greater levels of data mining, greater levels of wealth accumulation and extraction. Nobody is more free or rich now. The other thing is that they claim, specifically with Hill Harper and the Black Wall Street wallet, is Black people should invest in Satoshis, which are small fractions of full Bitcoin, and then through accumulation of these Satoshis and accumulation eventually of more Bitcoin, once Bitcoin is adopted as the dominant currency, as Hill Harper says, the world would have to come to us. So the claim is that get in now and eventually you'll make a lot of money down the line, and it will collapse gaps in inequality, it will collapse gaps in freedom and liberation, it will overturn everything about power relations. That's what it is. And because I think it's rebranding an old argument around Black capitalism, around the myths of buying power, etc., it is tapping into an already primed audience ready to receive the mythology, and who are in desperate conditions enough to want to take chances and or to want to believe in it, because everybody wants to be told, if you just make minor adjustments in your financial behavior, as opposed to organizing, building movements, taking risks, challenging power, you can overcome. Everybody would prefer to hear that, myself included. But the reality is that's not how it works. So that's why I think it's effective. I mean, in a nutshell. And then when you come back with all these catchphrases in that initial story, you got the superstardom of JayZ. You have what I think is the conscious or unconscious connection to the celebrity of Beyonce. You got JackDorsey and his at least former ownership and connection to Twitter, and all that people think that's supposed to mean. And then you got them saying financial literacy. You've got them showing as you already called it out, he's rebranded himself the Black Bitcoin billionaire. So he's, his involvement. You got Nigel Roberts as a Black woman and the founder of a company, telling you to support her and that will support us. And then you've got people like we saw in the first video who can artfully dismiss legit criticism from a white person and claim that their race, gender, etc., puts them in a position to be in unquestioned honesty and accuracy. All of these things are happening again on top of the existing, you're already suffering, poor, oppressed, not really fully grasping how the economy works or able to change it, not connected to political organizations and movement. and it just works perfectly. It just makes it that much easier. So as in terms of just going back to the first part of the show and the overall branding of this episode, from my point of view, this is why we need to have an understanding to some extent of the history of communism, the critique of capitalism, the specific applications of those efforts within the Black and African diasporas, then and now, and to say that if anything, what we need is communism, not cryptocurrency, or we need, revolution and not a new rebranded form of capital. And that's, what I, in my head, was trying to put together, as this show started to kind of come together with our guest and these, that video and these recent stories. Yeah, go ahead.
Now that I think of it, I'm thinking that Garvey would have been on cryptocurrency in some kind of way, especially when I was reading that he was saying that we our ally are the capitalists because we can kind of like lowball them and lowball our labor and work for them and build up enough money until we get to some kind of place. But I still see the same argument where Garvey and in any of the what's Sybil Briggs or any other the Black communists. I still kind of see the same argument in 2020 of trying some way to Blackenize or create a Black capitalist kind of agenda.
Well, similar to this comment here, I like the idea of crypto to get around the federal government, but the actual value of crypto is worse than fiat paper money. See, that's part of the Cryptoganda as I see it. The crypto is not a way around the federal government. This is part of the mythology. And because we're encouraged to move away from assuming political power, we're encouraged to believe that this is a way to circumvent, even in a small way, the federal system and the capitalist world, even beyond it. And I'm trying to argue that that's not what's happening here. What we should be saying is we shouldn't be trying to work around the federal government. We should be looking to take it over, get rid of it, assume its power in a new way, whatever you want to. In other words, we need political power, not new ways to circumvent existing power and new ways to discourage people from organizing themselves. So I'm not saying that MJ here is doing that, but I'm saying that's part of how I see the mythology working. That, yeah, because it's easy to tell oppressed people, we got a way around the government. We got a way around the banks. But this is not a way of doing that. You're increasing surveillance, you're increasing data mining, and increasing the extraction of wealth and power that we might have to someone else. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, but in that article, I hear the goal is to build the wealth so you can participate in American economy.
Right.
So it's kind of like that's where it gets confusing. It's like you're saying that, okay, these people built wealth this way. We gonna get without any kind of money because we don't have any money, and we acknowledge that. But without any kind of money, we're gonna invest a little bit of money we have into this thing, and then it's gonna help us build wealth. So now we can go back and participate in the economy. To me, that I don't see. I'm not connecting.
Look, in previous shows we've already done this, and we'll have to keep doing it, albeit not today because we're already gone 2.5 hours. But the federal government is already and has long apparently been involved in surveilling the blockchain, using their ability to break in and snatch people's identities when they need to, of locking people up. The CIA is claiming that it is happy to have people use Bitcoin in the blockchain because it puts everything out on an open ledger that they can get access to and catch people who think that they're circumventing something. But ultimately what I'm saying is we can't have a situation where our liberation struggles and our efforts towards liberation are subsumed beneath these claims of let's secretly move digital data packets around and accumulate wealth and then buy politicians. And again, we're just going back to that old black capitalist. So that's ultimately, so anyway, like even if it didn't go perfectly well, the attempt at what I think we were doing here this morning is very satisfying to me, bringing in again these very real struggles of people and working people and black and brown people in particular on the ground, with connection with at least reflections on positive communist involvement and struggle in those efforts within those communities, and then looking more critically at these latest stories of as I consider them, Cryptoganda, attempts to confuse us away from political struggle and into some form of speculative investment once again.
Have you came across anybody with a fairly decent or half decent argument for this? Because I still haven't heard anything that sounds legit or has some kind of logic.
Yeah. No, I don't think so, but but this is the problem that I've always had with all of this. I don't think there has never been a legit argument for black capitalism or speculative investment or wealth creation before political power. I don't think there's ever been a legit argument for that. All that there ever is are talented spokespeople in mythologizing those arguments. I thought the professor did pretty well there, but in most cases, if you're the only if you're the only white person on a panel of black people and all of them are telling you you're the white boy and you're not allowed to be in part of this conversation, on the one hand, there's legitimacy in that argument, but if it's being abused, it makes it difficult for people to see that what's really being done there is a hustle, is an abuse of nationalism for the purposes of supporting very white capitalist venture capital activity. But in other words, if without a certain political frame, if you tuned into that video we were looking at earlier, I think what they were doing is a very good tactical approach. There is, in other words, the brother and sister have no legit argument against what the white boy was saying. So all they could say is, you're a white boy. And that is effective in certain. So my point is, there are effective arguments that are empty. There's, effective, moments of effective, go ahead. Yeah, but not an actual strong argument. No.
But then everybody will probably skip over when he said there's a white man actually owned this brother's company and he's the head and the whole board is white. You skip over that. But,
hey, shout out to that. I didn't thanks, word from the point. I didn't catch that today was the anniversary of the ancestor day for Marcus Garvey. So again, on this issue or however you approach it, I don't think we agree everything with Garvey, but no doubt he was a legend and deserves that respect. So shout out to him and thank you, word from the point, for reminding us of that. Yeah, and I think actually Marash Brigand, I think 77% is low. I've seen, yeah, but anyway, even if it's not, that's close enough. I think that's I'm saying I think the percentage, I think the top 1% have more than 77% is what I'm saying. That's what I think. I think the top 1% have more than 77% of all the crypto. But I might be confusing with this stat that talks about that it's like 99% of exchanges have nothing to do with purchase or the use of crypto as currency, but simply people moving their currency from one wallet that they own to another that they own, which gives the appearance of more traffic and makes certainly those exchanges more money. But that's in that Emma has been my point as well, that if 1% have about 80% of all the, I forgot in the buying power book, I found some of the more recent stats, and they break it down even by, it's even worse. Yeah, it's even worse. But it's, anyway, they parallel themselves. The accumulation of wealth parallels is what is the point that I think we're all getting at. So yeah. Anyway, my man, anything you got coming up that you want to let us know about? Because I think unfortunately I gotta move on, and I know, shout out to the remixers, but we can't just stay here all day. So I'm just saying, my bad. Uh-oh, did I mess up? What I mess up? Uh-oh, they said my name. They just said my name like that. Usually that means something bad. When somebody just says Jared, I've messed up somewhere. So my bad if I messed up. Oh, I need to watch the Bomani Jones clip. Oh, my bad. Okay. Oh, for a Not By Myself. Okay. All right. I'll look into that. Hey, my classes are over. So everybody, hey, this is a good way to remind everybody. My classes are over. The summer is here. So make sure you have joined up, subscribed, and hit that bell, because I might just be popping up and dropping stuff whenever outside of my normally regular, schedule. So if you want to be around for that Not By Myself and other good things, make sure you got that bell click so that you don't miss anything. But that's a good idea. I will definitely check that. Bomani, I haven't checked out his work in a minute, but I don't know. I don't know what it is. I used to listen to his radio show before he moved on from there, was taken off. And I used to say all the time, for a commercial media space, Bomani Jones did the best race class work in those commercial settings that I've seen. So yeah, I am supposed to be writing. I got to write the second edition. I got to do the second edition of the Buying Power book this year. I got to work on my Cryptoganda chapter, which will show up in a form in Propaganda in Focus. And I'm behind on that. I got issues with my writing. I'm struggling, but so I do have to do that work. But there will definitely be some more BPM pop-ups. And all of that. And yes, Jordan, shout out to you, Jordan. Thanks for all your work with the channel as well. But Jordan is right. Become a patron if you can. The link is in the channel description, blackpowermedia.org as well, where you can become a patron and help us because we are, again, it's moving slow. I'm for my impatience, but we are rolling out our support for our projects and putting the little pools of resources you all have helped us create to good use. We're certainly not just sitting here. I'm not hating on that though. Some people need this stuff as a gig. I'm not hating on that, but that's not the main point for most of the platform. So your contributions go to a collective good. So please consider that as well, including the support for the Mutual Aid for Panthers Fund that BPM is supporting as well. So anyway, my bad, Geechee. Did you have something? I completely. Yeah.
No, just the same thing. Next week, if you're in Carolina, Charleston, we have the Juneteenth event on the 18th, but that's about it.
All right, word up. Is that going to be, you going to get anything going to be captured from that, and you going to bring anything back for us from that?
I don't know yet, man. It's in Charleston is just now getting into the Juneteenth stuff, and it's like a whole bunch of mythology you got to kind of work around. I've been trying my best to throw some Harry Jones and Greg Horn at people so that they can be, a little bit more clear around it, but.
Rest in peace to Harry Jones, man.
Yeah.
Got a good interview with him at mixwhatilike.org. I think, well, actually it's on the BPM channel now. So yeah, check that out about Juneteenth as well. So, all right, good people. Geechee, big shout out to you. Thank you very much. Brother Diallo, we'll catch up with him next week as well. Definitely big shout out and thanks again to Dr. Margaret Stevens, and to all of you who are here now with us live. Thank you. And to those who will see and hear this later, thanks to you as well. Definitely get some of this new merch. Got the cups, got my new shirt. You know what I mean? And we'll catch you next time right here, same place, same whatever. Lot of stuff coming up over the weekend as well later today. Make sure the bell is clicked. Sundays with the Ear Doctor, Warrior class, all kinds of stuff. Luke My Nation. And I'll be back Monday morning. Geechee, peace to you and everybody else, because as Fred said, we know you're willing to fight for it. Catch you next time here. And I mix what I like. Peace, everybody. Peace. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
Let me show these suckers how to ball out here. Oh, man, let me get this together here. Oh, layup. Oh, no. Shot. Oh, three. Oh, it's like Brick City out here. Mid-range. Oh, my goodness. I can't buy a bucket out here. I missed the whole damn basket. Oh, my goodness. What's going on, man? My game is looking trash. Oh, here we go. Black Power Media shirt. Now we cooking. Tree. I'm taking on 3 of y'all with these right here. Between the legs. Oh, my goodness. Behind the back. Layup. Oh, did he just do a reverse? He is in beast mode out here. I ain't got to look. It's falling. Oh, my goodness. This guy is going 3, 2, 1. Kobe. Nice. Black Power Media, baby. Nice. Empower yourself. Go get you some of that Black Power Media again. Right here, blackpowermedia.org. Yeah.